So I was born and raised in the city of Birmingham, and in the 80s we took to the streets to fight neo-Nazis and skinheads. And when I say fight, I mean literally would fight with bottles, bats, fists, get beaten up and beat up. But the purpose was to get these fascists, racists out of our streets, to keep them away from us. We'd go home sometimes, and I remember coming back once battered. Skinheads had caught me. They kicked me in my face repeatedly with steel toe-cap boots. My blood was pouring into my mouth. I was choking on my own vomit, and the last words I thought I was going to say was La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and I screamed them out with spurting blood. I went home. My dad took me to the accident hospital. He saw the state of me, but in the accident hospital there were 5 skinheads, all with broken noses, broken legs, broken arms, and God knows what. And in the midst of the fight, we'd managed to hurt them more than they'd hurt us. Our parents at that generation, they were hardworking. They believed that you get what you give, and they didn't believe in fighting back. But we were born and raised here, and this was our home just as much as it was of the skinheads. When he tells me to go back home, I'm going back home to Spark Hill. And no matter how much he tells me to get out of the country. So when we stood toe to toe with these fascists and racists and neo-Nazis, there was either you stay here or you push us out. And we pushed them out. And they're no longer around. Fast forward from that time till now, it used to be just about being brown. Our gang included even Irish guys, because they were targeted. Muslims and Hindus and Sikhs and black people all together. But now in this new world we exist in, it's the targeting of Muslims. The communist Chinese, the capitalist American, the Hindutva Indians, the French. It doesn't matter. If you're Muslim, they're going to target you. What level you're practicing at, they don't really care. They don't really care whether you've got a beard or a hijab or a scarf, or they don't really care about that. If you say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, you're a target. And there's been a normalization of Islamophobia. So there's one thing I tell you, brothers, you know, I spent 3 years in Guantanamo, 2 of those years in pure solitary confinement. I saw 2 prisoners beaten, tortured to death, with their hands tied to the top of the cage, to death, being kicked and punched to death by American soldiers. And that guy said on his lips, the last word he said, Allah, Allah, Allah. And they kicked him because he said Allah. They found it funny. His autopsy report and the entirety of his life is featured in an Oscar-winning documentary called Taxi to the Dark Side.
What?
Because he was a taxi driver. Taxi to the Dark Side. Do a search for it. Taxi to the Dark Side. I'm an eyewitness to that. After all of that, 3 years without charge, no trial, no court, no prosecutor, no defense, nothing. Just a cell that measured 8 foot by 6 foot. No window, no communication, no phone calls, no TV, no letters.
Yeah, were you like chucking things in the river?
There was no river.
There's a road for letter or something.
There's nothing. You're in a cell. You're in a cage. You can't come out of the cage. So what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to do in the midst of that? Learn the Quran. Reflect on its verses. Internalize them. Learn whatever you can from the small amount of books they give you. Write letters, write your thoughts. Prepare yourself for the outside world. And there's one thing I want to tell you guys, right? So you're facing off people who hate Muslims on the streets, mostly because they're ignorant. If you were to sit them down one-on-one, you'd easily break down the hatred. Easy. Because we did it with the American soldiers. And I can tell you, some of those American soldiers, I swear by Allah, in those cages said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and some of them have visited me in my home here. So don't let your enemy and your abuser and your tormentor and your jailer become your teacher. What do I mean by this? This terminology says, you know, our enemy is not our teacher, comes from a famous mujahid. His name is Omar al-Mukhtar. He fought against the Italian fascists.
1923.
Fascists,
1916.
in the desert. He was 70 years old.
Yeah, sick.
When the Muslims captured Italian prisoners and they wanted to torture them, he said, our enemy is not our teacher. Our teacher is who? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
For 20 years
And
we are
if
poor.
he had been that
For
way,
20 years we are
if
fine.
Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had been that way, we wouldn't be Muslims today. Because the message of Islam couldn't have been spread by force. He forgave those who tried to, like Al-Wahshi and Hind and Abu Sufyan, he forgave them. And Islam, and they became leaders of
They're
Islam.
the ones that chained themselves at the
Yeah,
end, innit?
yeah.
The Muqtaz,
Yes,
they chained
yeah.
themselves at the end.
Yeah.
So that no one runs away.
So this, brother, when you think about this, if you come across these guys, you come across these people, if they're going to fight you, fight them. Stand firm. Don't back off. You have the right to self-defense in law and in Islam, in every law. You have the right to defend yourself proportionately. Doesn't mean like if he hits you, you stick a knife in him. No. If he hits you, you hit him back. Knock him down.
Self-defense.
But when you're able to speak to that person, show him that you're dignified, show him that you're a person of honor, show him that you're a person of faith, of Islam.
Alhamdulillah.
And that will, my brothers, allow, this is what Allah says in the Quran, idfa billati hiya ahsan. Respond with, hit back with that which is better. فَإِذَا الَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةٌ. So that between him and you, who there is animosity,
Animosity.
كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ. And he becomes like a close friend to you. And that's why I bring you back to, there's Guantanamo soldiers who in the beginning abused us, they stripped us naked, they beat us, they kicked us, they spat upon us, they cursed Islam. They cursed Islam. They tore the Quran and threw it into the toilet. Said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Imagine that.